Okay, looks like it's running. Let me double check with you guys to see if that's happening. It says live. Screen share presenting to everyone. Okay. Can you hear? Okay, good. All right, let's get started then. What? It's just after 5. Let's do homework. You'll have to like ping me if you want to say something. Just do the @Tom Wright or ask a question or anything. So I'm going to jump in here. This is Praveen. I'm probably butchering your name. I'm sorry. So we'll start looking at these models. Model looks great. It's nice and clean. I would say, based on this image, we could see some more occlusion probably in the barrel. And that can either be painted in or you can rearrange your light to where it's not gleaming off the barrel, or you can actually paint less metal or less reflection in there. Other than that, probably one of my this model looks really good. I'm looking at it up close. There's a lot of detail. I'm not seeing shadows in this. Like, see how this little staple looking thing here is poking out. We should see some contact shadow on this, and it may be the bias on your light or the size of the light. If say it's an area light, I'm not sure what you're using to light this exactly, or what software you're rendering in. But the bigger, like if it's an area light, the bigger that area light, the softer shadows are going to be, and sometimes they can get so soft that you just can't see them, or they just don't look like contact shads. And in this case, it looks like you need some contact shads. I can see them here from this rim light. This is a nice tight rim. So what I would do is try to get some shadow in here, and this bolt should shadow, right? And even though that we see some diffuse shadow, there should still be some shadow. I think all this should be soft, but it should definitely be there. One of the things that I do as a lighter, I should probably explain. We're considered finaling artists at places like Disney. I worked at Disney for a while, and we touch a little bit of everything. So mostly we're generalists, and we can texture, and we can model, and we can do things like that. So a lot of times that I'll see something that's in the model, and I can either send it back to the modeler or fix it myself sometimes. But in this case, like there should be a slight bevel, enough of a bevel to catch light in some of these areas. Again, it's a little hard. I'm looking at a small image, but these look a little bit hard on the model side. So you might want to put a slight bevel in order to see how this thing catches light, because it has this bevel. That's really nice. That probably there should be a little bit of that everywhere. Anytime you see this hard edge, it's usually I'm usually wanting a bevel. Like this looks like it's beveled. It's hard to see, but it looks pretty good. The rim light's nice. The main key is okay. It mainly looks like you're missing shadows. That's probably why I'm seeing this. I'm saying a lack of occlusion, but it's probably really a lack of shadow all around. Marmoset, I'm reading your thing here. So you used environment map to fill, which is normal, like an HDR, and you used Marmoset lights. Okay. I would check this key light, the one that's hitting here, because it looks like this is warm. This rim looks fine. It's this main key light that's hitting. I would check to make sure that shadows are on first off, and then to check some of your settings to make sure that the shadows are working. It says you can open the original to get a clear picture. Okay, you see it better that way. How do I get the original? Oh, is it open link or open link maybe? Oh, I see. And I got this over here. Is that the original or is that just the same thing? Because it looks about the same. At least my other monitor here is calibrated, color calibrated. This this is actually my, is it bottom left of the, it says open original. And bottom left of what? After you click the image, or, oh, I see, open original. Gotcha. Thanks, buddy. Yep. Let's go out and open the original. Okay, and that's way better. Okay, this is a way bigger image. Thanks. So yeah, but I'm still seeing that. Oh, it's nice. There's a lot of texture detail in here that I didn't see before. I'm gonna close this other one. Nice. You can see this reflection. Just make sure it's not so visible that, you know, because I can kind of see what this is. It looks like, you know, I can see the lights and stuff. You can put a little bit of blur on that or rotate it to where it's more abstract. But yeah, I mean, overall, I can see everything. Nothing's going black or anything like that. So this is pretty good. Um, but yeah, check that shadow of the main key, and then I'm going to move on here. Thanks for the help, though. Cool. Let's check this one out. I'm going to do the same thing here. Do original. Yep. And then bring this guy over. I'll close that one. Cool. Again, great model. I see a little bit of that same issue where I see a bevel here, but it's pretty tight. It's not bad. I don't think I would complain about that. That's okay. We see a really nice bevel here. See how it kind of catches this rim. That's really important. You probably could use a little bit more on this bottom, just enough to kind of catch light, because this one looks great. See how it's catching light right here? This one should have a little bit more bevel. Model looks great. Textures are nice. The other thing I was going to say is a lot of my work as a lighting artist, especially in film, is to manage the materials, manage it in the sense that we will rematerial things, we'll redo the materials in order for it to look better in our lighting, and that's super common. So in a game environment, that's not easy to do, because if you change a material, that material can be touching many things. So you got to be really careful. In a film, we'll get like this shot, a shot, and it'll be our shot. It'll be completely on its own island. So if I want to change, you know, this chord's material, it's fine as long as it's consistent in every shot. But that's a common thing. Like, you know, this could probably use a little bit more roughness or specular to make it look rubbery, or a soft specular. But this looks pretty good. I mean, that's not too bad. I like this. Is this strictly lit with HDR, or do you have another light in here, or is this marmoset also? Oh, you were, if you're flattened the lighting. Well, I would say no, because you have these rims, right? So uh, there is a little bit of not seeing this shadow from whatever light is coming in here. This should be a really soft shadow. I think that the fact that this is soft is proper. I mean, that's what it looks like it should be, in my opinion. Again, it doesn't have a set behind it, so I don't know for sure. But the softness of the light is fine. I think it's a little bit flat. You're right. I mean, I'm not seeing like a core shadow on it. The core, of course, being like something like this on the main unit. But I think if you had some shadow, a really soft shadow over here, it would take care of that. It would look much more, you would get more shape out of it, right? So it is a little bit flat on the front face. These models look great. But yeah, I don't have any problem with that. Say I have 3 lights in the HDR. Rims were mostly marmoset. The HDR, get rid of the blacks, right? Yep. No, the HDR is, I think those are a must nowadays because they're really where your ambient comes from. And it gives you a variation in ambient, and it also gives you auto reflection and everything else. But definitely use the HDR. If it's overpowering something, you can always rotate it to where you get the darks that you want. So if this is coming from the HDR, then I would rotate the HDR until you start seeing some shape uh, in the front. I mean, this is a flat piece, so you're not going to get crazy shape. But you should, like that's why I was saying. If I think if you got the shadow of this dial to push over here to be long and really soft, meaning this light should really be coming almost at an angle to all this to give you some darker areas here. I think that would help you a lot. Otherwise, it looks pretty good. I'm going to move up. This is Lucas. Jump in here, Lucas, and open your original. Right. I'm going to push this back down so I can see if Lucas wants to talk to me. All right, this looks like a comp of CG on top of live action or an image, maybe the HDR. I don't know. Let's see. This looks pretty good. My only complaint here is that this, I mean, it looks like this could be real in the sense that you could have pulled your phone out and taken this picture. But one of the things we're striving to do is create things that look cinematic, right? So sometimes choosing, you might have taken this photo. It's fine as a photo, but as a piece of cinematography, you want it to be something pretty interesting, compositionally and also lighting wise, in lighting composition, lighting color and composition. Which I mean, this kind of looks like just a pretty picture that you took with your camera. Think about the composition sometimes, and maybe even the overall shot composition is very centered. So just something to think about. It looks real, like it looks like he's there. There could be some more occlusion probably in his gears and stuff. But when you look back here at how dark do the darks get, that's this is roughly correct. Not sure what that line is right there. If that's a shadow, probably a shadow from his arm. It could be softer because we don't see any hard shadows really. This is probably the hardest shadow from the sun, and that's not very hard. So I would do something in that softness there. Looks pretty good, man. Model's great. Yeah, I think it gets to a point where, okay, you've accomplished a goal of making something look like it's in the photograph, and then you got to push yourself further and say, okay, well, let's make this more interesting in the sense of placement and overall composition, and then you can start pushing your lighting composition because there's nothing really focusing my eye on him. You could probably use some vignetting, which is like kind of darkening the corners. And if this was a set, I would immediately have them put up something that placed some shadows that kind of pointed into your subject. You always want your subject to be brighter and have more color than the rest of the set. That's just a rule of cinematography. Just try to lead people into what you want them to see. This is cool though, man. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Are you there, buddy? I don't know if he's here. I don't know what you lit this in. Yeah, he looks pretty good. He's got a lot of grunge texture on him, and I don't know what's reflecting in his eye, but it doesn't look like what the scene is. if that makes sense. Like it looks like it might be something else reflecting in his eyes there. Um, Not too bad. Uh, Maybe a little strong on this skylight on the top of his head. Again, these are slight suggestions. This looks pretty good. I would probably go a little, like I said, call this one done and start pushing your composition, the overall image and composition of it. Maybe even kind of start building something in CG as the background. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I like it. All right, I'm gonna move up. What do we got here? This is week 4 homework. Am I getting into, I don't know if I'm getting into some other stuff here, but I don't think I need to see the full piece of this. This is nice. This is a ray trace example. To see how much light is bouncing, right? You're getting the yellows and reflections off things. There's not much to say here. Something else where you're using, looks like an HDR on a plane. You can always project like the HDR onto the plane to try to make it look like it's sitting there in real life. But this is nice. You got lights coming from here. I don't know if that's strictly HDR, but you're getting a nice fall off on your shadow. Pretty hard light there, but that is reflective. So, it's about what we're seeing in other areas. Oh, this is cool. We'll look at the original on this one. Bring that guy over. All right. How big does this get? Okay. Cool. So this is kind of a backlit human. An initial, something I see is it's your core shadow is not super dark, so it's not giving me a lot of shape, right? I like it. I like what the shadows I'm seeing underneath some of this stuff, but in his face, and it may be that his subsurface or something is a little too strong or too deep. Sometimes the subsurface can get too deep and flatten a lot of the skin shader. But yeah, you would think you'd see a little bit more, because we're seeing some pretty darks in here. You would think it would be a little bit more in here. Again, just remember this is all about shaping things. So think sculpting with light, right? I'm not sure if this is a single light on his back that's just widely open. I would try to get rid of this on his arm. It looks pretty good. It almost looks like he's got subsurface on his pants there, the way that looks. It's kind of cool though. I think this is too hot overall, this light. The rim, I like the rim. I just think it's a little bit hot. So my two big things would be this is hot. Get rid of this. Get more shape in his face. Like looks like this is a great model. It's just this brightness versus this. Like this seems dark, right? So check on that material and see if the depth is too much, and then see if you can get some good shadows across his face. We're seeing some good stuff here. Yeah, it's a cool model. Materials are really nice. Yeah. You got to watch stuff like this because sometimes this looks like an error, right? But it's probably not. So if that's in the material, you might want to paint that out. Get some of these dark shadows as a result of having multiple lights that probably aren't bouncing a lot. So you got like this is kind of dark under his arm. This is a little dark. Considering how bright everything is all the way around. Just make sure you get that nice core shadow. Your key, your rim is fine. It's just bright. Nice, pretty cool. If you put something down underneath them, you might have hidden it from the camera if you've done that. If this is a ray trace renderer, it'll actually bounce off of that. So if you put a plane underneath him, it'll bounce up and start hitting some of this stuff that looks like it's getting too dark. Cool. All right. Let's see. You guys saying anything down here? I think so. The fastest I can do the pins here. Leo Brandon, yeah. Previewing, I asked him a moment ago when he was saying to just scroll up in the homework. Oh, right. Yeah, right. So I can, look at these because we kind of saw these. I didn't look at this one yet. That's what I was saying about the pins. I haven't seen this one either because this has a light inside it. Let's see, are these up here or? Oh yeah, they are. They're right here. Well, some of them are anyway. So I'll just click on the pin here. I haven't seen this one. This is Lucas. Again, I don't need to see the full thing. I mean, I really like this soft shadow up here. This is cool. I don't know if there's like a point up here creating this, but that's really nice. And it actually looks like it's supposed to be here. This particular shadow is really soft. Looks like it would come from something like this, and it's still hitting this white floor and bouncing all the way back up, which is what it would do. See the reflection here, which is good. This is much more rough, which is, perfect. And the whole point of the ray tracer is just make sure this red is getting bounced and this blue is getting bounced. You'll know something is wrong if you don't see, these things happening. Cool. Didn't want that. Let me look more at the pins. Maybe this guy here. Waiting for a critique on some of these. I'll open the original. We'll look at this. A model looks really cool of the woman. Did I see though? I feel like I'm crazy. Cancel. What? This is the same woman. Okay. 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 Cool. Okay. So as a shot, I'm not sure what this is here. That's a shadow or something else. I'm sure that some of this is stand-in, right? Because this is almost photoreal. This lady and this is not right. It's not. I don't know if that was going to be built out or anything. I think again, this image has a little bit of a problem compositionally, mainly because it's just so centered, and you start thinking about thirds and placing things of interest or things that draw your eye on those thirds, and then think about. I mean, it's all of what lighting is. What do you want the audience to look at? And then you start thinking, what do you want the audience to look at first? Which, of course, anything bright and colorful is going to be the first thing somebody looks at. So make sure that they have a line of sight from here to wherever you want them to see. So in this case, I personally would rotate the camera a little bit to where this cross is probably over here on the third, and she's probably over here on the third. again, if you're not showcasing the model, it's okay to like clip into things and get it nice and tight and make it something that's interesting, because it's hard to tell kind of what she's doing. She's facing, I mean, I know this is a cross and she's praying, but if you weren't a Christian, you might not know what she's doing right here because we can't really see her hands, and you had to rotate it back around. Lighting wise, I think, I mean, I like these soft shadows, but it's almost straight down, right? Because we're seeing these shadows. It's almost like the light is just shooting straight down on her, or on the whole scene. Rather, something like this could be really moody, right? You can make it really dark and fake the fact that the candle is lighting the scene by taking lights and rimming her um, with this warm glow, and then kind of darkening back. And then that way you're really like, again, if you have it over here, you're really looking into the scene, you're looking at the brightest part, and you can walk your way through it by looking at the rims and details that hit even toward the back. It's hard to explain without the composition sitting in front of me, but yeah, this could be cool. I mean, the model's great. The lady model is really, really cool. It looks photoreal to me. Oh, realizing I'm not in here. Yeah, to make sure everything's covered. Okay. Let's look at this guy. So this looks like a test. We'll look at the whole thing. These are like ray trace tests. I can't remember what they call these rooms, but to make sure everything's working. Yeah, I mean, everything's where I can see the yellow on her clothes. I can see the red. That's what it's supposed to look like. Cool. I mean, not much to say. Whoa, that's cool. Ha! So this looks like it's lit with not the right thing. This one lit with HDR. Which I really like this rim here on the back. I don't know if that was created by the HDR. If you put that in there, that's pretty. That's what I talk about, drawing your eye into things, and it makes me immediately look through the dinosaur and kind of come into his eye and face. Again, a lot of the stuff compositionally could be a lot more interesting. If this is like a shot, what would you want to see? The thing I didn't mention is, and this is something that probably you guys should be using all the time, is reference. Like I use reference constantly. It could be anything from a color swatch to an actual shot from a film or anything like that. But if you're looking to make this a cool shot, man, go watch Jurassic Park or any of the sequels and pick a camera angle or a shot that really looks dynamic and really looks cool to you, and then match that shot. We steal like artists, right? There's no reason to try and reinvent the wheel when one of the world's best cinematographers has already come up with this really cool shot. You should just take it and compositionally take it, and then you can light it the way you want it, or you could try to copy theirs. There's a lot to be learned by looking at some of those things and matching them up. The model looks great. Everything's cool. It's what they call flat, of course, because it's being lit mostly by the HDR, so you don't see a lot of things, a lot of variation in the light, other than this cool rim on top of him, which is great. Is my favorite part of this. And then you could, that rim could also hit her, that kind of thing. But again, I would do something compositionally really cool first, because you're going to light to the camera, right? Grab some. You know what? I pulled up. Well, let me get through some of this first, because I did pull up something reference wise to show you kind of how I work. when I'm working in film, or when I'm working in video games, rather, when I'm lighting a set. Cool. Huh, that's cool. It doesn't hold up quite as well this close. And she's clipping into her shirt there. It's I'm not sure what like this is. So we try to stay away from these really hard lines. I don't know what those are. Might be because this rim is super hot, right? It might be bleeding somewhere, or there may be some normals that are flipped or something. I don't know. You'll have to look into that. Or that's some kind of weird shadow. Either way, it's like, you could be like, well, that's because I can see her hand right there, right? So maybe there's something else. But regardless, that has to be softened. And you can either you can raise the size of the light, or there's many things you can do, but that should be like, you shouldn't see that shadow. And that's just a like, a cinematography lighting kind of, don't draw your attention to weird things. So I think that uplight is a little strong, because I think that's what's causing a lot of this issue. Their dress is kind of amazing. It looks great. Very cool. The rim light's fine. It's a little filled. There's definitely this uplight. And grab some reference. Like I can't say that enough. Like grab a piece of reference and try to match what you see. And look at reference. When I say reference, I don't mean like go outside and take a picture. I mean look at a high-end cinematographer, a film that you like, it's recent, and start analyzing where things go dark, where they're bright, how they're using light to tell a story and to shape things. That's the biggest thing, is to shape things and to bring your eye through an image. Cool. There's this one we looked at. You guys are buying stuff. Oh yeah. That's what I have right there, the Spider 5. That's how I color calibrate. Somebody's recommending that. It's good. Let me go through. We looked at that. Let me look through the pins also. Let me go down to see if you guys are talking. Yeah. Let me roll down. I'm going through this stuff fast, and I apologize. If you have any questions, just ask down there. We've seen this one. We've seen this one. We've seen this one. Oh, this is beautiful. Is this somebody's? This is great too. Let's take a look at this stuff. Yeah, and close some of these other ones. Oop. Oh, all right. Let's pull this over. Very nice. So this is what they call a 1-point perspective. So this is compositionally a nice shot, right? His floor is down on the third. Everything is got a single point. It all draws you down to 1 point in space. It's nice and bright. It's colorful. You almost can't not look initially right down here, exactly what you're supposed to. So my eye's drawn right to the red, and then it kind of comes to this because it's bright and it's has good shape. It's fairly symmetrical. So I kind of like that this bright light here is pushing it away from being just purely symmetrical, although it's going a little too bright right here, where you see, if you can't see the detail, it's a little bit too bright, right? I would pull that down to where I can kind of see it, but it's getting a little bright here, but not too bad. You just don't want people to look here and not here, right? So be careful. This is pretty close to being too bright. You might want to fake come in with a fake light and start rimming some of this. Same with here. You could bring a fake blue. My wife and kid just got home, by the way, so you're probably going to hear my kids rolling through here in just a second. Apologize. Other than that, there's like an uplight here. This could be softer, right? just so you don't see this hard line. And that's, again, you could just create a size this up and make this a soft shadow. Otherwise, this looks pretty good, man. Uh, these corners could have some variation in bevel if you really wanted to get. Again, this is being pretty nitpicky because this image looks really good. But if you wanted to vary this by coming in and creating some normal bump or whatever, right in the, like how something would be chipped away or something. These corners shouldn't be so perfect, right? And that's for all these that are such straight edge. At least a bevel, probably a little bit that would create some not so perfect straight lines. Yeah, it's a nice image. Yeah. Okay, cool. That was Booth. Okay. This, I think, was our other piece. Was somebody already kind of looking at this stuff? Jump down. Can you critique? Yeah, sure. This is Unreal. Yep, which I'm very, very familiar with. I actually work a lot in Unreal. That was my last. I just spent the last year at Epic Games. You just place the camera the way you wanted it. Okay, the lighting is done from scratch by me. Oh, I see. Yeah, these aren't yours, which is, that's okay. That's being a lighter. You're not usually doing your own modeling, but I say that, yet you need to be able to recognize what's wrong with models. So being able to model is kind of important. And sometimes you got to go in and fix stuff because nobody has time. This is cool. I think it's compositionally, I like it. It's bright right up here. It kind of brings you into this subject. I can't hardly tell what this is because there's a lot of what I call noise, and that's texturally. There's a lot of stuff going on in here that's well lit that is hard to so it's hard to see exactly what's going on. Which you got to kind of be careful with. Sometimes you got to remove all this stuff and this rock and that kind of thing. Just get rid of it if this is going to be the main shot. Yeah. So also lighting wise, like these feel like they might not be shadowing each other. 1 second. Okay. So if you shadow in between these, I think is something soft that might help you. Again, you can use cards and stuff that you can hide from the camera. I see that kind of everywhere. There's a lot of places where I'm not seeing a lot of shadows. I mean, under the light you wouldn't expect, but definitely you would want to see some shadows. And a lot of that in Unreal, you got to check your bias settings. Make sure your biases are really, really tight. Yeah. I would also turn on the depth of field to go ahead and help push you into this image. All this could be blurry. I'm not sure what. Oh, I see. They're kind of, yeah. See, that could be done better to draw you up through this. I just don't. It took me a while to even see these. Yeah. So that it's not bad. I mean, this is nice. It's nice. I would first concentrate on cleaning this up in the sense that these, whatever you can get rid of here, try to get rid of it or darken it and make, maybe even put a card back here one of those fog sheet cards right behind this character and just fog it out, because you don't want to see all this noise. The noise is what distracts your eye, right, from whatever the subject is. It's cool. Yeah, I like it, man. I think depth of field would help. I think, yeah, maybe a little bit of. It's weird because I can't quite see. Is that like a depth, or is that like, are these two separated? Is that why I see light here and here? It's hard to see. Maybe rotate these things until they look correct. But no, that's cool. I hope that helps. I'm always trying to click off of this one. Actually, I'm trying to click off of that one. So version 2, is it better or worse? Let's check it out. It's better. It's better because, and I liked this being bright. That's not a problem. It's better because I can tell what this. I mean, I can see this better, and I don't know if it's just because there, maybe because of the volume. But the fact that I can make this out is good. It still has that problem of having a lot of stuff in here. And I don't know if you know how to do this. They make these fog sheets, and they come inside. What is it? The one with the tree in it. The example with the tree that does. It shows you how to fake volumetrics, and they make one sheet fog sheet that's really useful, and you can stick one of those sheets back there and make it really kind of drown out all this information. I would still do. Rocks look really good. I would still do some depth of field. If this is your focus, then make sure this is your focus, and it'll start to blur all this forward stuff nicely. There's just enough separation here, so that's what I would do to this. I would rotate this until you can see this in between, because it's a little strange that this is definitely better. See how it's not lit like or is that the front? It's so hard to tell. Like, is that the front one? Is that the back one? That's what it looks like to me now. Whereas this one, it was harder to tell because I guess this is so dark. I like the depth of this one in the sense that I would grab some curves and bring these darks a little further down so that you kind of blend all this stuff together. Yeah, it needs kind of a nice curve, but it kind of suffers from that same, I don't see a ton of shadows, right? So check your light biases. Yeah. And color-wise, I don't know. Is the green better? I'm always kind of into these. I kind of like the colors in this a little bit better. The cool versus the warm. I don't know. You'll have to think about it. And there's an open patch right there. I'll obviously fix that. Just throw a rock in there or whatever. It's cool. Looks good. Let's see. So I wouldn't make my own fog sheet if I were you, because I actually looked at that blueprint and it's pretty darn complicated. I would migrate that. So if you download that it's a free. Where's that thing? Let me see if I can. Where's my launcher? Real quick. Launch Epic Games. Usually have this open. All right, if we look here, I think it might be under Learn. It's this guy right here, Blueprints. So if you download Blueprints, and if it's the same, like I'm in like, well, I don't know, 4.19 or whatever. If you download it now, it'll create like a 4.19 version of this. And as long as you're the shot that you're migrating it to is 4.19, you can just click on that fog sheet and say migrate and choose the content folder of the project you're working on, and that'll work fine. It'll actually pop up in your other project. Sorry, I'm reading here. You struggle with the depth of field, so can't make it work. Yeah, you'll have to play with depth of field. It works pretty good. Try to these epic examples are a great place to go in and look at what they've done and reverse engineer some of that stuff. So look at their cameras. They're always using the cinematic camera because it just is set up for better depth of field. Yeah, it should be fine. Right, yeah. Right, yeah, I can tell just from the difference of the light. I just, you want to be able to see your subject as well as you can. It's a good shot. I think you're missing, that was kind of cool. That initial pop and then draw you in. I kind of liked, so try to get that back maybe. Cool. Let's look again at these. How much time we got? Yeah, we got plenty of time. I do want to do this one real quick. Let's open that. This is cool. It's funny. My other monitor is fully color calibrated. That's what I use. That Spider 5 actually have one of those. This one I just set this back up, so this isn't. So it looks. I like looking at it. My other monitor, it makes it look better. This is nice. I like it compositionally. It looks great. I would try. This is a great excuse to use some caustics to try to get some caustics onto this table. If you can, like even if you fake it, like even if you paint a card and put it in, that's fine. But that could be cool. Because it looks like there's some light coming from this direction. I'm not sure if that would, hit here or whatnot. It's cool. Was this what they were circling before? Your sesame seeds are getting a little hot. Coffee looks great. Almost looks like the reflection is rotated, like this should be the window or something. But it takes a while to look at something before you recognize. If it's taken me that long to recognize that, it's not too big a deal. I like it. I kind of like the softness overall, and you're using some bloom, obviously. I can see it there, and it's kind of cool. I would probably recommend that. I like the fly. That's nice detail. This could be, again, I'm always looking at, edges and saying this bevel could be. What bothers me about these kind of bevels is they're too perfect. Like it looks great on this window because windows are manufactured, right? And these are usually made out of drywall, and somebody by hand has filled this in. So any kind of imperfection in these would help. And you could probably do that with a bump map or something like that, just to kind of create just some kind of little imperfection. Even a wave or anything would help those things. It's cool. It's a cool image. One of the things I wanted to show before because I know we don't have a lot of time, was my example of reference. Let me see if I can find what I'm looking for. Here we go. So this is from Battlefield 4, where they give you a lot of, they want you to build your own mood boards, which is super helpful actually for creating, and this is for an entire level. and not just a shot. And these are actually photographs that I took offline that kind of represent the overall feeling of what this level was going to be. And then what I do is I go in and color correct each one. Now this is a matte painting, and again I go in, I take the not a matte painting. I'm sorry, it's a concept art piece of concept art that they painted for me. But even that, I will take in and repaint it, color correct it, and make it look like the time of day that I want, and the kind of the intensity and and have the exact color palette that I want. You notice my color palette down here at the bottom. So I'm just, you know, in some of them I'll actually even point like this color is here, this color is here, this color is here, and just make sure that the rest of the team understands like what I'm going for. And it's more than the team. This is for me. Like I'll look back at this. Matter of fact, I'll print this thing and set it on my desk as I'm working on the level, so I understand like what I'm looking at. But that's that kind of reference thing. Let me see if I roll through these. So this one's from also Battlefield 4. So this is I think these two were the concept art pieces they painted for me, and a lot of this comes after the fact, if you can believe it. Like, so I put these reference together and build like a color swatch, and then they will take this stuff and paint a painting for me. And then I'll end up taking that and color correcting it again, and kind of reworking things. But it's all about trying to put a palette together and then a mood. That's what I call it, a mood board. So what does it feel like? What was interesting about this is this was my original, and then with the original paintings. And then we started saying, you know, what would be cool is if these signs were lit up, and I'd found this, but I wanted it to be in a rainy scenario where the signs were lit and then reflected into the ground. So I changed the mood board, and you can see I've added a couple of colors even that contrast the rest of it. And this is actually what we ended up going with. We put some of these signs in that were lit. It wasn't nearly as dark. I think I went like kind of late day or late morning with this, but those are a couple examples of like a mood board, and that's what I would suggest for you guys, is put together, you know, a reference of ideas of what you're going after. I think those are, if you want to see, this gets a little crazy, but if I open one of these up, so you get an idea of how much over here in my layers in Photoshop, how much work that I'm doing per image. You know, it's color curves, it's hue, saturation, it's what is this, color balance. Almost every one of these images has something, sometimes multiple, you know, multiple curves or whatever. I'll you know, put one on top of another sometimes. And but anyway, that's like, so I'll go through each image and just work it until I feel like it meets what I'm trying to accomplish. But it's something to think about with your own stuff, and especially at this stage of your career, try to look at as much reference as possible, and then try to match as much as you can. Well, these are cool, but we only have like 2 minutes left, so I'm going to jump down here and look and see if you guys have any comments left. Okay, yeah, I saw this. Yeah, do you guys have any more questions, or is there anything you were dying for me to take a look at? Or we got a couple minutes left, so whatever you guys think. All your stuff looks great. I mean, you guys, you know, you're killing it. I don't have any, like, there's nothing glaring that I'm looking at that I have to stop and discuss or something. But I would work on shot composition. Try to get your shots compositionally interesting. Try to follow the rule of thirds. Grab one of those. What do you call it? The circle pattern, Corridelli pattern thing. Try to learn some more about composition, and that'll help your lighting. So, do I have any suggestions on where to learn this process? No, I didn't know. This is something I learned at Dice. Actually, the whole mood board thing. A lot of that comes innately, which is strange to sit down, because then they said, no, sit down and do it. Like, we know what's in your brain. Now sit down and make it on a piece of paper, so to help guide yourself. Because Dice was a strange place. It was very, very flat. There was no supervisor. Even though I had an art director, he gave suggestions. That's it. I know it sounds odd, but that's what that place was like. It wasn't, nobody was like above you. So that was one of their things, is we want you to be the best artist you can be. So that was their suggestions. And as soon as I started making mood boards, I started realizing how powerful that was. Because it's so much faster to do something in Photoshop than to do something in 3D. So you'll change things really quickly on an image in Photoshop, just using a curve and a color correct. And then that will drive everything else you're doing on the level. I pick reference images. And I use Photoshop to adjust. So I pick images that and it's easier for Battlefield 4 because those places exist. So I can just look up those images of those places. And the reason why there's so much adjustment is because the image may be perfect. It may give me a feeling of, yes, this is the level as far as physically, but as far as lighting, color, composition, those kind of things, it's incorrect. So that's when I go in and crop it and start coloring on top of it. And there's masks and freaking there's so much stuff that goes into just one little image, and then I set that in there, and even that will change like 50 times, because I'll look at it and go, I don't know, is that really what I wanted to do? And you start looking at through the other images and through the level even, and start thinking, well, is this really what I want to do? But yeah, that's exactly what I do. I collect a group of images, and then I'll color correct. And that's for an entire level. For something like a single shot, just try to you just reference a shot, your own shot. So as a lighting artist, it could be a good idea to get good at Photoshop and adjust and edit images. Correct. Yes. I had to. What's really strange is when I went to Dice as a lighting artist, the first thing they said is, okay, paint this sky. And I was like, I don't paint, I don't like paint in Photoshop. I do little, like, some image correction and stuff. And even that wasn't like fantastic. Like, I didn't know a ton, but painting a sky is really like, having a bunch of brushes and really, I had to learn how to paint skies. It sounds crazy, but in that process, and luckily I worked right behind the concept artists that were behind me, so I could turn around and say, hey, how do you do this in Photoshop? How do you do this and how do you do that? So it helped. I don't know if Photoshop, like I say Photoshop, I'm sure you could do the exact same thing in GIMP or whatever, especially the photo editing and color correction stuff. But Photoshop is what I've always had. And so, yeah, it helps. And I'm using really the same three things, right? I'm using curves to, how dark are your darks and how bright are your brights. That's what my curve is doing. And then a color balance, usually the hue saturation I'll use a lot. I use a lot of masking because I'm trying to fake that light's coming from a certain direction. So I'll mask in things, and then I'll color dodge or something that kind of make it look like there's volumetric lighting coming from one direction or something. So if you had to pick 3 skills a lighting artist should know, what would that be, according to you, if that makes sense? 3 skills as in like what to be good at. I would say first and foremost would be composition. It sounds strange, but composition is really what lighting is. It's kind of sculpting a scene out, right? It's in film, they always laid the shots out for me. I never had to think about camera composition. I didn't have to think about that until I got to Naughty Dog, and they actually um, would ask me, like, what do you think about this camera? Where should this be? And I'd kind of be taken aback. I'd have to look at it and think about it a lot. But a lot of what I did, again, and this is every artist at our level, a lot of what I did is go watch a movie or go watch. I have an idea in my head. Well, in Indiana Jones, we had this, low, tight shot that did this, and it really gave it this sense of scary. And I'd go look at that shot, go look at it. Well, what did he do here? How did he light this? What was this like? So composition, I think, composition goes straight into lighting, because lighting is composition, right? It's thinking about where a shadow lays down and what is it pointing at, like all those things. None of that's an accident. Everything happens because you're pushing light and contrast. How your dark stuff's pushed back, your bright stuff. People are going to look at brighter stuff. People are going to look at things that are more colorful. So think about that as somebody who's looking through an image. What do you want them to look at first and second and third, and how you want to draw them through, and all that again is you want to follow some kind of rule of composition. The other two, I don't know. Color is important because you got to know how to put together colors. There's a lot of books on that. I used to always have like a color theory book. It's really old. I don't think they make it anymore, but I used to always have that on my desk for years and years. So you could flip through it and find different color combinations that supposedly psychologically they made you feel something or whatever. But mostly what it was is putting colors together that were pretty, so that they work together, right? A color wheel, that's kind of important to have, especially early on. Grab your color wheel and go, okay, I'm going to do a split complementary color scheme here. Grab your color wheel, look at the colors you're going to pick, and make sure that they're correctly laid out on the color wheel, and match them up in scene. So composition, colors. I always thought that knowing modeling was important, especially in games where you can get brand new guys they'll submit a model to you and half the normals are flipped. Well, if you've never modeled anything, you don't want to know what a normal is. You'll not know why half your scene is black, right? So it's kind of important to understand all that and be able to sit down and say, okay, are all these normals pointing the right direction? Why is my light not bouncing? Well, because the freaking single plane that I'm using has the normals in the wrong direction, so the light's shooting right through it, right? Things like that. I've found that knowing how to model was pretty useful as a lighting artist. But it's not that's definitely not. It's not necessary. You don't have to be a good modeler. You just have to understand, polygonal modeling and what a normal face does. So, yeah. Do you guys have any other questions? I see somebody typing. Sounds like photography practice. So I am what you bring up photography. Most the lighters, when I say most, like 90% of the lighting artists that I've worked with are also photographers, and they know everything about a camera. And I am one of those odd birds that I am more of a painter than I am a photographer. Like literally, I paint, and I don't really take photographs. Yes, but I would highly recommend. A matter of fact, I worked at DreamWorks, and they were so freaked out by the fact that I didn't know anything about a camera that they sent me to cinematography school. they sent me to school to learn about a camera because they said that was important. And I believe that's true. That's a lighting artist should know all about a camera. I was weird. I can eyeball things and make things look good, and I had no idea I would just set the f-stop to whatever. I can still make it look good. And that was great. But at the end of the day, the more technical things got, the more I needed to understand how the camera was working. What else? Say learn basic modeling pipeline. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, just learn basic modeling. You don't have to be an amazing modeler. Just understand polygonal modeling. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, and I'm sure I'll be back to look at more of you guys' stuff. So I think our hour is up, and I will let you guys. Yeah, no problem, guys. I'll take a look at some of your stuff again later. I think about some of the things that I've talked about. Composition, definitely get your shots nice, nice to begin with, and then all that lighting work will really pay off then. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna stop broadcasting. A lot of great stuff I saw today. Keep up the good work, and I'll talk to you guys soon.